The French soldier of the line in 1800. He wears a white leather shoulder strap, holding the ammunition cartridge box at his hip, and a cowhide leather backpack for supplies, with a blanket at the top for sleeping. The buttons at the bottom of his long coat tie back the coattails, making marching easier. The white leather shoulder strap equally holds the bayonet, which can be put on top of his main weapon, the Charleville flintlock musket. See previous video. The blue collar of the coat was a continuation of the collars of Royal France, adding red and white to complete the colors of the revolutionary French tricolor. The soldiers wore long leather gaiters for extra protection of his legs when walking through undergrowth or mud. As headgear, they wore the bicorn, now a symbol of the Revolutionary Army. This uniform was easily recognizable to friend and foe, making the French conscription soldiers distinguishable from afar. We have to remember this is the age of inaccurate musket fire, only working in large concentrated formations, making camouflage and concealment not important. These French line soldiers marched victoriously across Europe, with the battles in 1800 confirming the superiority of French forces, setting up the French Empire under Napoleon Bonaparte in 1805, with the imperial troops in the same uniforms crushing the Austrians and Russians at Austerlitz in 1805. And the Prussians at Jena in 1806. In my reckoning, this was the zenith of empire. Napoleon was seen as unbeatable, outmaneuvering his enemies, inflicting high casualties with relatively low losses on his own side. The Grande Armée was seen as undefeatable. In 1807, the headgear was changed to the cylindrical Shako, change actually disliked by the soldiers. Shakos became the norm, and Napoleon preferred them, finding that it made the soldiers look taller and more impressive. However, in the Shako days, victories were harder fought, with the Battle of Eylau in 1807 ending with high numbers of casualties on the French side, with the Russians finally beaten at Friedland. The French Shako would march into Spain in 1808, with an initial victory occupying Madrid. Austria declared war again, ending with a hard-fought victory at Wagram in 1809, with high casualty numbers on both sides, with Napoleon simply willing to accept higher casualties for victory. The Iberian Peninsula changed into a quagmire of guerrilla war. In 1812, the uniform was changed. The coat was straightened at the front and tails were shortened. The gaiters were shortened below the knees. The Shako plate was equally changed, now having a more impressive and intricate imperial eagle plate. In 1812, Napoleon made the disastrous decision to march into Russia, with an army of over 500,000 men, of which few would return, destroying a generation of young Frenchmen. It started with the absolute carnage at the Battle of Borodino, ending in the fateful winter retreat out of Moscow, sealing Napoleon's fate. A year later, a persistent coalition defeated the French at Leipzig in a battle of 3 days of carnage. It took the coalition another year to defeat the empire, having to march into Paris, with Napoleon unwilling to accept the inevitable. He came back in 1815 to try again in a futile attempt, ending at Waterloo, with the line soldiers fighting in the same imperial uniform. The return of the Bourbons required an overhaul of uniforms, returning to the royal blue with the royal fleur-de-lis symbol on the coattails and the Shako plates. This set in a more conservative era, with the Bourbon king preferring to showcase the former glory of the royal age. During this time, the army made a minor military incursion to Spain to aid the dying conservative Spanish Empire. Louis XVIII was succeeded by his ultra-conservative brother Charles X. France was in turmoil, economically struggling to come back after the end of the Napoleonic Wars. Charles set his sight on the supposedly easy target of Algeria across the Mediterranean. However, he was ousted in 1830 and replaced by the Orleans branch of the Bourbon family, by Louis Philippe. France slowly and methodically started to annex more and more land in Algeria. Here you can see the first introduction of the red trousers. However, Algeria was a tough nut to crack, with a harsh environment, not suited for well-dressed line soldiers. Losses were much higher than expected, and slow compromise to smart dress started to be introduced, with some units having much simpler shakos, losing their plates altogether. 1832 saw the establishment of the Foreign Legion, with foreign fighters promised French citizenship after 5 years of service. fighting alongside the French, influencing dress and gear of the French line soldier. The headgear became simpler, less tall and more manageable, slowly changing into what would become the kepi, and recognizable as Foreign Legion gear in this harsh North African desert environment. The Charleville musket was completely phased out and replaced by the percussion musket of 1840. Turmoil in France saw Louis-Philippe abdicate, changing France first into a republic and back into an empire under Emperor Napoleon III in 1852, the nephew of Napoleon I. Having very good relations with the Brits, he became part of a coalition fighting Russia over domination of the Black Sea, landing troops in the Crimean Peninsula in what would be called the Crimean War. The harsh conditions of the open peninsula created the need for pragmatic uniforms. The headgear was changed to the lower kepi, with short coats, while some imperial aspects were maintained with widespread use of epaulets, green for the line infantry at first. The colder conditions saw the frequent use of long coats, with troops frequently removing epaulets in day-to-day campaigning. However, these were days of empire again, and glorification of the old days was still required, with more official parade uniforms showing the taller kepi with an imperial eagle. The French fought successfully against the Austrians in the Italian War of Independence, alongside of the Kingdom of Sardinia, resulting in the retreat of Austria at Solferino, creating an Italian client state. By now, all European armies modified their percussion muskets to grooved mini-rifles, allowing accurate fire at long distance. This resulted in high casualties, which Napoleon III did not have the stomach for, suing for peace before Italy was freed completely. Napoleon III was not as ruthless as his uncle. In 1861, the empire went on a mad adventure to Mexico to install a client empire there, wearing uniforms adapted to the hot climate, white trousers and headgear protecting the neck, sometimes even adopting sombrero-like hats. The French, getting bogged down, evacuated the American continent without result in 1867. 1870 was the French disaster year and the end of the empire, with a crushing defeat against the superior Prussians. Epaulets for the line soldiers were now red, and summer coats were longer, and the imperial forces looked as smart as ever. The French soldiers were now equipped with the superior breech-loading Chassepot needle rifle. But this was not enough against superior artillery and tactics of the Prussians, overthrowing Imperial France in 1870 and defeating the Republic in 1871. The French would equally wear longer coats for colder or rainier days, fielding a uniform looking similar for an even more disastrous war 44 years later. With relatively unchanged uniforms, they stopped the German advance at the Marne in 1914. However, this was the age of the breech-loading rifles, with accurate long-distance fire and quick reloading. The French introduced the Lebel rifle. This age made concealment and camouflage necessary. The red trousers had to go, with quick introduction of blue over-trousers in 1915. The war became static, with mass artillery barrages. The quick-firing explosions from cannons made the use of helmets a necessity, with shrapnel and rocks falling on heads, introducing the Adrian helmet with a light blue uniform in 1917. During World War I, the French could not yet let go of their blue-collared uniforms. It would take the Second World War for the French army to fully introduce the now universal use of army green. The French started the war with a still distinguishable French uniform, with a new version of the Adrian helmet. After the Second World War, the French army would adapt multiple uniforms for various theaters, even using old US gear in Vietnam and Algeria, losing the uniformity, fully introducing uniforms adapted to the theater conditions. Many thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. I really appreciate it. You can help me out by subscribing and liking this video, of course, as usual. Many thanks again, and I hope to see you soon in the next video.